Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So as you may know, I make videos mostly about style and I try and make them as useful as possible, so most of my videos would include things like outfit shots and ideas, but this video is not one of them. It is a full-on chatty story time. I'm not going to budge from this chair or really show you very much else other than a couple of handbags and a lot of talking, so if you're not into that, I would say exit out at this point. But if you are, I recommend you get yourself a hot beverage. I'm having a hot chocolate, and join me for the story time because if you are into luxury goods or interested in luxury goods, this is a horror story in my opinion, and I just feel the need to share it. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. It's all about my boy bag, and let's get right into the story and I will take you right to the beginning. Once upon a time, quite a few Fridays ago, I brought out my boy bag. Now this handbag is barely worn. I don't really use it as much as I had hoped to when I bought it because it just doesn't really fit that much. But I brought it out especially, it does look very nice with jeans, so I brought it out for a casual Friday, and as I brought it out to fill it with my things, I remarked to myself that it really is pretty brand new looking. So I checked it out. I kind of tend to do this with my bags once in a while, looked at the corners, look for any scuffs. There really aren't any other than on the inside pocket, and that's about it. I remember remarking that to myself and bringing it out and enjoying wearing it that evening. And as I was going home, one of my friends was going to give me a ride home. I don't have a car. That's how I afford these handbags. Just kidding, but that's also kind of true. Anyway, so she was going to drive me home. And as we were walking through the parking garage, my handbag just fell off my shoulder. And my first thought right away was to blame myself, which is actually so twisted because I hadn't done anything wrong, like dropped my handbag clumsily. And I looked down, and as soon as I looked down at my handbag on the concrete, I realized what had happened. The strap here where it connects with the metal hardware had completely just broken off, which was completely weird because earlier on in the evening I had looked at it and checked its wear and tear, and it looked absolutely perfect. So it was like the thread had somehow just suddenly detached. Maybe it wasn't knotted quite right. It's really hard to say, but I know that earlier on in the evening it looked 100% fine, and then it literally, like, it looked like the tab of leather here where the stitching is had just come completely undone, as if nobody had really ever sewed it in place at all. Very strange. And so I was really shocked. I felt really bad right away. I checked my handbag for scuffs. Surprisingly, it was actually totally fine. There are no visible scuffs on either side where it would have hit the ground, so that's kind of miraculous. It does kind of tell you that lambskin's not so bad. I know a lot of people are always really nervous about lambskin versus pebbled leather. This one literally was thrown from my shoulder onto the floor, hit the floor pretty hard, and is completely fine. But still, I was really confused as to why that had happened. Like I said, it's a barely worn bag. I don't really take it out except for special occasions, or if I really want to dress up for work, I will take it out occasionally as well. But I would say it's been worn maybe like less than 50 times in a few years. And so, yeah, I just, put it aside and chalked up the courage to go into the Chanel store. Now, let me just say, here in Vancouver, we do not have a freestanding Chanel boutique, but for all intents and purposes, it kind of does feel like a real Chanel store when you go in. It's in Holt Renfrew, which is a high-end department store here, and it has a door with a security person. It doesn't really feel like one of those like boutiques in a store. It's very like separate feeling. But you do get in through the inside of Holt Renfrew, and yeah, that's the only store we have for Chanel. We used to have a freestanding store a long time ago, well before I could afford Chanel, but as of now, we just have that store. And so because I live here, that's really the only place I could think of to take it. And I wanted to take it to Chanel because I really wasn't sure what had happened with the strap, and I wanted someone to do a good job fixing it. So that was my plan. What I did is I put it into its dust bag. I don't think I still have the original box, so I just put it in a dust bag, and then I put it inside a Lululemon bag. Hold on, I will show you what that bag looked like. I now tried to replicate exactly Exhibit A that I brought into the Chanel store, and this is exactly how I was carrying it. I had a bag on me. Honestly, it was probably this one that I was carrying, but we'll get to that in a bit. I'm not really 100% sure. And that's all I had on my person. And you can see kind of how I wrapped it. I mean, this isn't like an amazing job or anything, but I didn't want it to be rattling around inside a bigger tote bag. So I put it into a Chanel dust bag, which wasn't this one, it was a similar one. We will get to that, trust me. There's more to the story to be told. And then I put it inside this little Lululemon bag. I was carrying it. Imagine me walking through the department store, heading for the Chanel door, heading there. And then right at the entrance, there was a security guard there. And I had never really seen this before. Like, I hadn't been in for a little while. Not that long, maybe like a month or two since I'd been into the Chanel store. I go there periodically on my lunch break. The last thing I bought there would have been, at this store, would have been my black Chanel ballet flats. So I go in there like fairly regularly because it's not that far from my office, and I really enjoy browsing in there. I have a Chanel addiction that I am trying to work on, but like I said, we will get to that later. The security guard at the entrance, first of all, I noticed that he was standing in the middle of what was this big mess. Like, all of these bags and coats and things belonging to people in the store had been just kind of piled all around him. So imagine someone just like standing in the middle of all of this stuff. Some of them were shopping bags, some of them were like I said, more personal items, things like that. And I was just like momentarily confused by that. So I probably like slowed down my walking a little bit because I was headed straight to the counter to bring in my bag for repair. He stopped me with his arm kind of held out in front of me, and he was like, "Ma'am," and then he just started reaching for me, and I didn't really understand what was going on at first. I was just kind of bemused by how much stuff he had around him. It was really weird. You know, the Chanel store is just so neat and beautiful for him to just be standing in this like giant pile of bags. And he just started reaching for this bag, which was in my right hand, so the hand like closest to him. And I was just immediately just confused, and I did stop. I didn't like try and keep going or anything like that. And he was like, "I'll take that." And immediately, like, I just kind of held the bag closer to my body. I guess I'm kind of protective of my handbags. I don't know, guys. It was just like, that was my immediate response. And because I did that, he then grabbed my arm, and while he was grabbing my arm, he told me, "I'll take that." And I just, again, like, I felt kind of confused. I didn't really know what was going on. But he did, like, grab my forearm pretty hard to the point where I let go of this bag, and he kind of, like, took it from me. And that's when I immediately, like, went through, like, that realm of emotions that I think you tend to in these sorts of situations. Like, I went from kind of, like, confused to kind of, like, a little bit, like, afraid/intimidated. That's just how I felt having somebody grab me like that. And then after that, I just kind of immediately felt like kind of upset and angry because I just wanted to go get my bag repaired. And, you know, I just, you know, immediately was just kind of very like offended. And, you know, he was kind of hurting my arm as well, although he didn't hang on for very long. Because as soon as he had the bag, he was like happy or whatever. So I kind of like snatched it back from him, or tried to, because he continued to hold on to one side of the handles and I was kind of pulling on the other. He had kind of just released my arm by then. Right away, I just said, "No, that's my handbag." And he just didn't seem at all like like he wasn't gonna let go of the bag. He didn't seem embarrassed at all, like he had kind of done something that was in any way, like, you know, stepping over the line of what I think is appropriate in the situation. Keep in mind, I mean, this doesn't really look like the kind of bag that I would be shoving goods, trying to like steal them. 3, 2, 1. And it was pretty clear that it had like one specific item in it that looks, I would say, like, if you take a good look, pretty clearly like a handbag inside of it, which, you know, inside Chanel, there might be like a purpose for that. In any case, I'm not saying he should have like read my mind and knew that I had a repair, but I do think he should have asked whether he could take my bag or let me know without touching me that they had a store policy that you could not bring like personal items other than your purse like into the store, which by the way is a policy like I have never heard of in any other store. So yeah, it was a very confrontational situation. I felt like he behaved really inappropriately, but I think the most telling part of all of this is that as all of this was happening, the one sales associate who wasn't busy was standing behind the counter looking at me totally just passively and with like what I consider to be just kind of like a bit of a judgy face while she was looking at me. And she just, yeah, just stood there. And so quickly I just kind of wanted to get out of that situation with him and just, you know, get what I had to do done. Keep in mind, I'm on my lunch break at this point. Simultaneously, I just kind of pulled the bag away from him and told him as I was doing that, that I was bringing in a Chanel bag for a repair. And I think I also did make a snarky comment to him that, you know, he shouldn't have touched me or something like that, like don't touch me. Because I honestly, like, I was very flustered by then. So I just stepped over to the counter and it was very weird to me that she didn't say anything, she didn't mention anything to him. It was like the whole thing hadn't happened, but equally she wasn't very courteous to me at all. So I brought out the bag. At this point I sort of like unpack it and I show her the strap, and again, totally impassive. She brings a form for me to fill out with all my information, and she tells me that she has no idea when the repair will be done. So I'm just like, okay, well, does that mean that you have to send it away? I know for some things at Chanel that you essentially like can't have it done locally. They have to send it to head office, I believe, in New York. And a lot of other luxury places, to be fair, are like that too. I know for Tiffany's, they don't do watch repairs in Vancouver, I don't think, unless that's changed with the new store. And so they have to ship out my watch every year to have the battery changed over to Toronto, and it takes 2 weeks to come back. So I kind of wanted to know whether that's like what was going to happen, and I didn't really like know what the whole process was going to involve, because believe it or not, none of my other Chanel handbags have ever needed a repair over the years, so this was my first time dealing with that. But again, you know, with the whole security guard incident that I was still like kind of upset about, I just, you know, didn't really ask a lot of questions, but I kind of got the gist that she wasn't really going to give me any answers anyway because she didn't know. I asked her how much it was going to be, and she said $35. So I wrote that down on the form. And yeah, I wasn't very happy with the $35, and I'll explain why in a second. But because of the security guard incident, I didn't really want to dispute it. I also felt like it would seem to her like very cheap to dispute the $35 given how much I paid for this bag, thousands of dollars. But equally to me, I think I mentioned this in my designer shopping list video that I filmed recently, so I won't go over it too much again. But to me, the $35 is just like a little bit of a slap in the face. It's not about how much money it is, it's just the fact that it's a low amount, and given the price of the handbag and the fact that it's not something that happened that I consider to be wear and tear, it just feels like really tacky for them to charge that. You know, I feel like small charges like that should just be built into the price of the handbag that you've paid, and they are just meant to provide you with really excellent customer service. And a lot of places that I've shopped at have kind of treated me in that way, and so I guess I've become, you know, kind of accustomed to that. So yeah, I wasn't very happy about the $35, but I decided not to argue about it, and I wrote that down on the form because there was a little box that said priced or something on it. It was a little bit vague, but I did write it down. So yeah, I walked away with just like essentially me giving her information, but she didn't really give me any information about when I would be getting the handbag back or where it was going or anything like that. Fast forward 4 weeks, I go in and I ask about my bag. They have no idea where it's gone or what has happened to it. They actually like made me give them the form and took a good 15 to 20 minutes to kind of, I guess, locate it in the system or something like that. Whatever, that's fine. I also know that, you know, like these kind of repairs take time and so forth, and at this point in time, I never had received a phone call telling me that my bag was going somewhere, but because of the amount of time that it had taken, I kind of assumed that it had probably been shipped somewhere for the repair. And maybe also in the back of my mind, I kind of was like, okay, well the $35 is probably like the cost of shipping rather than the cost of the repair. And so that's, you know, it kind of explains the charge, and it helped me to make my peace with that charge somehow. I don't know, what can I say? Like, I was probably overthinking it by now. The whole security guard thing was still in my mind to the point where like I didn't bring anything into the store that time. And I was gonna go to the gym, but I went back to my office to get my things so that I wouldn't have to walk in with anything, because I felt like I would just be so nervous to walk in there with something and like quickly hand it over that I just didn't want to be in that situation at all anymore. So that time I went in with nothing but like a tiny handbag, and that was it. And it was a different security guard at the door. And they didn't really say anything to me, but once again, they did have like a smaller pile of stuff around their legs as well. And she comes back and she told me, oh, the repair hasn't been done yet, but we'll call you when it's done. So fast forward another 2 weeks, where it's the beginning of last week. They leave a voicemail that my handbag is about to be ready and I can come and pick it up anytime towards the latter part of the week. So I'm like, okay, that's great. And it's quite a long message that she leaves, and she kind of rambles on about how even though initially they thought it would be $35, it's actually going to be closer to $50. That's what she said, around $50. She kind of said it multiple times. She was like closer to 50, around $50, because there's more work to be done than expected. She doesn't really say what that is. She doesn't even give a specific day, like I said, that it'll be ready, or a specific amount that's to be charged. She just tells me to come in. So that's exactly what I do, and on Thursday I go and pick up my bag, and I again don't bring anything with me into the store and awkwardly scurry past, and I walk in, I give them my slip of paper, and off they go to look for the bag. She goes to look for the bag, first of all, in a section that's like at the back where you go and pay for handbags, and it's not there. So then she goes and she says to me that she's going downstairs. And it's absolute news to me that Chanel even has a downstairs. I have absolutely no idea where the stairs even are. So this at this point, this is like totally like, I have no idea about this at all. And off she goes, and again, she kind of takes a while. And at this point, she comes back with my handbag, which is in a giant Ziploc bag. And she tells me, okay, our repair lady has just finished with your handbag. And I just couldn't believe that this whole time, they actually had a repair person physically there. And that is the person who actually like did the repair. And it hasn't been shipped out anywhere at all. It just has been there the whole time, probably, I guess, in a queue in order for the repair woman to get to it. But 6 weeks is a really, really long time for that. And they never ever gave me any updates or right until like the few days before the handbag was ready. So I thought that was all very strange. And I also, at this point, think the whole thing about the charge that has, you know, gone up for no reason and that I still consider to be kind of illegitimate, just becomes even stranger to me, because if they have someone who's just constantly stitching downstairs, I really think that it should be free, and I don't think that it should also be unpredictable. If they have this physical person sitting there, they could even go down and ask like, hey, we have this handbag with the stitching that's come off here. Can you give me like an approximate amount of like what it's going to cost? But the whole time they acted as if it would just be a total surprise, because likely the handbag would have to go somewhere, either like locally or like internationally or something complicated. This is actually not the original dust bag that the handbag came with. The original dust bag was a little bit different, and the fabric was more of a thick kind of cotton, and I don't know how else to sort of explain it other than to say that this is more lightweight. She brought it out because it actually didn't have a dust bag at that point. And so I let her know that I had brought it in with its dust bag on. I never do anything with my handbags without their dust bags. They're all stored in dust bags. And so I was like, okay, is it inside the handbag? I checked the inside of the handbag, it's not there. And so I said, okay, maybe it's just like on the desk downstairs, could you look around for it? And she came back up and said to me, no, are you sure it was in a dust bag? And I said, yes, I would not like transport my bag without a dust bag, especially, you know, with the rain and everything in Vancouver, like that would be really silly. I would just never do that. And so she said, okay, I'll go down and see again if I can find it. And she came back up and she just kind of like across the desk, like slid it to me and was like, here's a dust bag. And I just took it, guys, because I just wanted to get out of there and move on with my life, but it is not the original dust bag that the handbag came with. So at this point, I asked her to pull out the records for when I dropped off the bag, and I do tell her that originally I was told it would be $35, and I also do mention how long it took for the handbag to be finished. And I wasn't argumentative in any way. Again, this is another third lady than the other two I have dealt with. And so my approach customer service wise is just that it's not, you know, her fault. She doesn't really know about anything that's happened. But still, I mean, the whole thing has kind of like rubbed me the wrong way. But I do very politely and calmly just kind of tell her that it's weird to me how much the amount has fluctuated and how long it has taken. And so at this point, she's like, okay, fine, we will charge you the $35 plus tax that was originally agreed upon. And she really put the emphasis, she was like, but plus tax, and as if like I would try and refuse to pay the tax or something like that and make a big fuss about it, almost like she was kind of like daring me to do that. But of course I say nothing. I pay for the repair and I move on with my life. Obviously, it's a little bit of a sweetener to me that I think my handbag looks wonderful. It still looks brand new. The one anecdote that I would like to add to it, just for its perfect contrast with this sales experience, is I was kind of nervous to go in and ask about my YSL College handbag. This handbag, unlike the boy bag, I have used a ton and I've had it for a long time as well. I went in because there was actually a kink in the chain right around the middle part. The links were just not lying flat and it was quite visible, especially on videos, and I just thought it looked kind of ugly. And so I kind of went in with the mindset there that it would probably cost me something to get it straightened out and that they would very likely have to send it out, because I didn't think that they would have. It looks like quite a small store from the outside and even on the inside once you're in there. Smaller than Chanel, I would say. And yeah, I really had made my peace with paying something and having to be separated from the chain for a little while, which is why I kind of procrastinated that for a long time. And I wish I hadn't, because as soon as I went in, they were so warm and friendly to me. I was immediately introduced to the guy who actually does the repairs at the back, but he was like really nicely dressed. He looked like the manager of the store or something like that, but he was actually somebody who did repairs, and he was also like incredibly friendly and kind. And he took a look at the handbag. He was like, okay, do you have a little bit of time? Because I need to go at the back and see if I can fix it for you. And I was like, oh my gosh, of course, I'm more than happy to wait. Let me know if you'd like me to come another day to pick it up or anything like that. Thank you so much for looking at it. Like, I was just so grateful right away, because he was just being so courteous, and I loved that he didn't like kind of blame me for the kink. He didn't really ask that many questions. He asked where I got the bag, and I actually purchased it online from Bergdorf's, not even from like a Saint Laurent boutique or anything like that. So you know, I again was kind of like apologetic, but I said to him like, there's no Bergdorf's here, so I'm really hoping that you can help me with this, because again, I didn't really know where else to go. And with something like that that's hardware, that's like, I don't know where else you would take it to get fixed. I have pliers, but they're jeweler's pliers, and this is pretty, you know, chunky, so I wasn't sure what kind of tool you would use to try and kind of bend it back into place. And I still don't know, because he took it out at the back. He was back there with the chain for less than 20 minutes. I was then helped by another sales associate, Seamus, I think his name was. He was really friendly and quirky and funny, and he showed me a whole bunch of handbags, and I tried them all on and just had like a really nice time there. They offered me like whatever beverage I wanted, and yeah, I just kind of basically hung out at the store while he was back working on my chain as I thought it. But then when he brought it out, he held out the chain and he said, I actually had some spare links, and so I completely just replaced that section. And that's so amazing to me, because they look absolutely identical. He did such a wonderful job. It's the absolute like right chain. There's no difference or anything like that. And of course, you know, at that point there's no bending of it or anything like that. It's just like a whole brand new section of the straps. So I was so impressed with that, so touched, and I absolutely paused and waited for him to like tell me, okay, that'll be like, I don't know, anywhere up to like $100 or even more. I think I would have been okay with for a total replacement like that. But he just did it like on the house, and what I appreciate most is that he didn't even make a big deal about it. He was like, would you like a bag to put your YSL bag in? Because again, I brought it in a reusable like Lululemon type bag. At the end just said, happy to do this for you, and that was it. And I just went on my way, and they were like, see you soon, hopefully, and that was it. It was so nice and friendly and chill and just, you know, professional as well. Like, they just were so professional. And I have had the same treatment at Louis Vuitton. I had a screw replaced on my Gallier bag years ago that had come like out of where the hinge is, and they replaced it for me like immediately as well, so that I could use the handbag again. And so I really have been so incredibly fortunate with all of my luxury experiences. Probably what keeps me, you know, spending so much money on all of it, including that it's an experience that I really enjoy and am obviously like kind of addicted to. And I just, yeah, this Chanel experience was so in contrast with that. I am not someone who is easily made to feel like embarrassed or low or anything like that. I consider myself to like behave pretty professionally in most situations, and for that Chanel experience to make me feel like so flustered and awkward and unwelcome, I think like really speaks to what they're creating there, which is really unfortunate. It's really sad, because I think Chanel handbags are such an aspirational thing for many women, rightly or wrongly. That is just, I think, a reality often. And it's really sad to me that that's how they're, you know, kind of treating that privilege. And yeah, so I thought I would just tell you guys about it. That said, I am a little tiny bit of a hypocrite in that I don't know that that experience has completely dissuaded me from ever spending money in there again. I think if I were really principled, that is probably what I would say at the end of this video. I think I will think twice before going in, especially into a Chanel store and especially into that Chanel store. Leave any horror stories of your own in the comments down below so that we can all share this experience together and be entertained. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to see more videos on style, then please give this video a like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next installment. Bye!